Warning. The following program contains content about sports and the sports world. This show is an assembly of college kids who enjoy sports and like yapping about said sports. Claims and views described and promoted do not reflect those of Central Michigan University, the Central Michigan University Broadcast and Cinematic Arts Program, or Moore Hall Television. If you should have any comments, questions, or concerns, reach out to the show via email, cardguyshow@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if you feel so inclined. Perhaps leave a comment down below. And please enjoy the following program.
You are listening to WMHW HD1 and HD2 Mount Pleasant, Mountain 91.5, a service of Central Michigan University School of Broadcast and Cinematic Arts. Live from the Dr. Jerry Henderson Radio Complex, it's time for Card Guys. And now, here's your host, Anthony Schulte.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Michael, for the intro as always. And welcome to Card Guys Season 2, Episode 2. Coming up today, we enjoy a Victory Monday for the Detroit Lions. We recap a very entertaining divisional round in the NFL playoffs. And we go over some Central Michigan basketball. Joining me as always, my man, Ryan Donnelly.
Derek Barnes fans, this is for you.
Also, right next to me, my guy, Mr. Michael Rosenkranz.
You know, to be honest, your boy's a little tired today. You know, it's just a early wake up. But who am I kidding? It's Victory Monday, baby!
Oh, yes,
Let's go!
And joining us as a special guest, a fellow card guy who has made some appearances on an old show of ours, Count That Baby in a Foul, Mr. Izaak Haffenden.
Thanks a lot for having me, Anthony. Victory Monday is the best caffeine of all time, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. So starting us off today, yet another historic win for the Detroit Lions, winning their divisional round matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and what a game it was, fellas.
Oh my gosh, what a game. Whether you're watching here on air while you're watching here on our YouTube channel, you must be excited. Come on, this is a great day for the city of Detroit. I want to hear your opinions on it first before I go anything, but oh man, am I a little scared for San Fran? A little bit, but I want to hear what you guys said. What do you guys think?
A little scared for San Francisco, Ryan. I feel like my nerves have all of a sudden just shot up week after week. Nervous at the Rams, nervous at the Buccaneers. Now with San Fran on the clock, and especially the Lions going away, I think this is the most nervous I've ever been. I actually went to B-Dubs last night, just after halftime, to watch the rest of the game. That environment in there, it was a packed house in there.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was so much fun in there. Granted, something I've never really done before is just head to a packed house at B-Dubs just to go watch a game. But It was, to be honest, one of the best games that I've ever seen. When players needed to come up big, they came up huge. Jahmyr Gibbs breaking off a run.
Big Gibby.
I love Jahmyr Gibbs. That dude is fast.
He's electric.
He is electric. Amon-Ra St. Brown making a couple big catches, Laporta getting the job done, and then Derek Barnes eventually closing it out. What a great win for the city of Detroit. And not only do we own Los Angeles now, we also own Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. What a game it was for Jared Goff. 30 completions on 43 attempts for a 69.767 completion percentage with a 101.66 quarterback rating and 2 tutties. He played great. He played his heart out. This is definitely one of the better games we've seen from Jared Goff. And Jahmyr Gibbs as well. 9 attempts in the rushing game for 74 yards and a tutty. Then, obviously, that big 31-yard touchdown was huge. So the run game did their job, and so did the offensive line. Laporta played great. Amon-Ra played great. Jamison Williams had some big catches, and so did Brock Wright that one time for 29 yards. So offense came to play. Everyone on the offense came to play, and it was a beautiful sight. We got some sacks on Mr. Baker. Obviously, Hutchinson got 1, Branch got 1, and Iffy, who's turning into quite a nice blitzer, got 2. So secondary got some picks. Obviously, we allowed quite some yards to Baker Mayfield, but when we needed to make plays, we made plays, and that's what good teams do.
It's what good teams do, and what I saw in this game was the first half was not good. We were losing in every single statistic except for penalty yards, which is surprising. to say the least. And at the beginning of the game, it was kind of like it didn't feel like we were losing by that much or we weren't even losing at all. It didn't feel like we were out of the game statistically that much until you look at the stat sheet and you're like, wow, we are getting killed in the air. We're getting killed on the ground, and our offense can't start up for anything, So the beginning of the game was a little suspect. In the second half, we started to turn it on a little bit. And it's kind of like the opposite of what we've seen recently from this team. This team gets out of the gates hot, and then in the second half kind of cools off. Now, this game, they start off a little cool, and then they heat up. Jahmyr Gibbs, big 31-yard touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown over the head catch in the end zone for a tutty. Derek Barnes with that pick to seal the game. It was just a good comeback. I want to say comeback effort because we were tied at the half, but it was a good, resilient win for this team, and it made it look convincing. This was not a convincing win at all, in my opinion. If we're giving up 350 yards to Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, I'm really scared for Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel if he plays. In fact, Deebo Samuel, shoulder, avoids fracture, status uncertain for conference championship.
We got a break there.
Wow.
That's some big news just coming in from Ian Rappaport from NFL Network. So we might not even have to worry about Deebo Samuel. But I want to see more of a consistent 60 minutes of football from this team. We're seeing 30 minutes. We're seeing 30 minutes. We're not seeing a full 60 minutes. And that's why I think San Francisco wins next week. I want the Lions to win, obviously, but just looking at it from a football perspective, if the Lions don't put together 4 quarters like we put together those third and fourth quarters yesterday, we don't put together 2 halves, 2 good halves, combine the Rams game and the Buccaneers game first and second half. If we don't combine those together and put together a solid 60 minutes of football, I just see San Francisco running away with this one, whether it's in the first or the second half.
Tampa surprised a lot of people this year. Tampa surprised me a lot. Baker, 26 for 41 last night, 349 yards. I think Tampa should sign him to an extension. This was a make-or-break year.
He's earned it.
He 1,000% earned it. He has played phenomenal this year. I was very scared for Baker. I genuinely was after what I saw, what he did to Philly. At the same time, I was scared for Stafford. And look at what we did to Stafford. We destroyed that guy. We destroyed his confidence, and we destroyed the entire Rams team. Talking to friend of the show, my roommate Calvin Cousins, big football guy, he basically said that he's not scared for San Fran. As a fan of the game, I am very nervous. Like I said this on my Snapchat story the other day, but besides quarterback, I believe that the San Francisco 49ers are the most complete team in the NFL. Yep. Great weapons, great backfield, great O-line, great D-line, great secondary, Money Moody, Michigan man.
Great coaches.
And great coaches, too. Kyle Shanahan's a genius. But I can see this D-line tear through. They got what? Trent Williams is a D-lineman.
He's an offensive lineman.
He is?
Yeah, Trent Williams is an offensive
I could see him tear through Trent Williams like he's a piece of paper.
Really?
I genuinely think if Jonah Jackson comes back, we got lucky with Ragnow getting hurt at the end of the first half and then coming back. Jonah Jackson did not come back last night.
Yeah,
he better come back. James Houston was a DNP.
He's good. He's going to probably play.
He better play next week, or else I will be very upset.
He will be playing.
Yeah,
but we just need everybody to be healthy, and we don't need to over prepare. Something that Dan Campbell's really good at is preparing. Although it hasn't really executed the past few weeks, he's very good at preparing his players. He's not like Mike McCarthy where it's the Packers, let's not practice all week, and then they get trounced in the wild card. Or they're not like Buffalo. We'll talk about the Bills later.
Yeah, the Bills will come a bit later. later on in the program.
I'm very excited about the Bills, talking about the Bills game, but he's so good at preparing. Even against the Bucs, where we had a shot at winning, Dan Campbell still made sure everybody was good, made sure everybody was healthy, made sure everybody was good to play. And look at what happened. It paid off. 23-31 Lions. Man, I got no sleep last night because I had the Super Bowl on my mind.
I do think one thing is being overlooked here. And I know I said I'm predicting the 49ers to win this game just from a football fan perspective. Obviously, it's still go Lions 100%. Jared Goff's going back to the Sunshine State. Right? Isn't that what California's called?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Florida.
That's Florida?
Wait.
California.
What is California called?
What is
It's the.
This is going to be a moment.
The Sunshine State is Florida.
What is California
it still
called?
Is the Sunshine State, but I don't know what it's actually called.
Yeah, the Sunshine State is Florida. It's the Golden State.
Golden State. There it is.
How did
Golden
we forget
State.
that? How did we all forget
Look,
that?
folks, if you're watching on YouTube, this is being filmed at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I got 3 hours of sleep. So obviously my brain isn't working at its limited capacity. But Jared Goff, he's going back to California. We'll say that. When he was with the Rams, he was playing in California, right? A little bit.
He grew up in Cali. He went to college in Cali.
Exactly.
He played in Cali for the first part of his career.
He's
Kid's going home. As long as there's a beautiful sunny day in Santa Clara Stadium, I think I like our chances.
Exactly. Jared Goff's going to have a game. He's going back home. He's going to have family there, obviously. He's used to playing in that environment. Obviously, he's grown accustomed to a dome. But, I mean, you remember your old habits when they come out in a familiar setting. Hopefully, it's a beautiful day. I'm hoping for a beautiful day out there in Santa Clara, California. But Jared Goff, he needs to have a big game. Over 300 yards, good completion percentage, and at least 2 touchdowns. I want to see what he did against the Buccaneers. Just a couple more big-time plays. A couple more big-time throws to J-Mo. Maybe a couple different routes to get J-Mo open. I only saw J-Mo get open a couple times off a couple different routes. Let's see J-Mo get a little bit more integrated in this offense. I want to make one comparison here. I see Jahmyr Gibbs as our Jaden Ivey. A speedy guy who's electric, and when you give him the ball, he can make plays. You've seen it recently. I got to sprinkle in some Pistons, folks. You've seen it recently with Jaden Ivey. You give him the ball, he's a speedster that makes plays and gets buckets, right? You saw it with his recent 30-point outburst. I see that as Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is our Jaden Ivey, a speedy, go-get-you points type of guy. You put the ball in his hands, he's going to make plays as an electric player. Now, obviously, it's not 100% similar. They're not the same person. But I could see similarities and impact of speed kills, and he gets you points. That's a little comparison I thought of.
But does he miss mid-ranges and three-pointers all the time?
Well, he's not shooting mid-ranges and three-pointers. I'm comparing points and speed. That's it.
Okay.
Points and speed. That's what I see.
I will say the key to winning the game next week is open field tackling. San Francisco has a lot of great blockers, a lot of speedy receivers who when they get the ball in space, they can make stuff happen. I mean, I think Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. I wouldn't say he's elite, but I'd say he gets a lot of help from his playmakers like Ayuk, Debo, McCaffrey. Face it, stopping those guys is not going to be easy. But the best way to stop them is to make your tackles and don't let them get those big yards after the catch. That's the key to containing them, and I think if we can do that to the best of our ability, I think we'll win. But I will say, I think the Niners' weakness is cornerback, similar to ours. So if we can get some separation and Goff has time to throw, obviously he will hit his guys. And I'd like to see a bigger game from David Montgomery because last game he had 10 attempts for 33 yards. I mean, he wasn't the focal point of our offense, but
I think Gibby took the focal point of the runs.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have 2 running backs like this, you got to feed who's hot.
Yep.
And obviously, at the start of the game, we're like, okay, Jahmyr's feeling it. Gibby's feeling it today. We're going to keep pounding him the rock, right? Montgomery, that's the problem with having 2 really good running backs is both of them, it's very rare when both of them can shine, right? It's really rare when you see both of them have an elite day because when you're running the ball, usually it's just one running back. And that one running back, when he's feeling it or not feeling it, whatever. That's what's good about having 2 running backs. When one's not feeling it, hopefully the other one is, right? And Gibby was feeling it. We were giving Gibby the ball. You said open field tackling, right?
Yes.
One thing that I noticed that we did really good was against the check down. Against the check down, we stopped big plays from happening. We stopped them in the backfield. Now, whether there's a penalty attached, that's to be discussed. But We stopped a lot of check down passes that could have turned into big plays. Brock Purdy is known as the check down merchant. All he does is throw check downs to Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, and he lets them do the work, right? I mean, I saw a post from Ghetto Gronk, an elite meme page on Instagram, and he said the NFL world is colliding together to root for the Lions just so we don't see 30 check downs from Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl, right? Nobody wants to see that type of football. It's boring. Right? You want to see those big plays, those really good throws, those really good routes. That's what makes offense fun in football, not check downs and let Christian McCaffrey run all over a tangled defense.
You've seen us beat the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen us almost beat the Cowboys.
Should have
beat the Cowboys. You saw us beat the Red Hot Broncos. I think that was a pretty big game.
That was a huge game.
That was pretty big. You saw us beat the Rams, the Bucks twice. The Vikings twice. I'm not scared at all.
Really?
I really am. Lions after dark will only have one loss, and that loss shouldn't even have been a loss.
True.
We are technically like 9-0.
I mean, technically it's 3:30.
Yeah, it's an afternoon game in California.
It is
on the Eastern Standard Time. It's 6:15.
We'll say Lions after dark just for the.
It's Lions after dark. It's Lions before dusk. Let's say
Lions before dusk. I love that.
That's a new
like
name
that.
for it.
Jared Goff's played in Cali. He grew up in Cali. Went to Cal. Went to state. Played his first 6 years with the Rams. He knows how to play in LA. He knows how to play in SoCal. He knows how to play in California. I'm confident in Jared Goff. I'm confident in everybody. But the one thing that I am not confident about, and you mentioned this about 2 minutes ago, is our secondary. Our secondary is worse.
It's moldy Swiss cheese.
It is. Cam Sutton's nickname is Trash Can Sutton. He is horrible.
He made a couple big. I'll defend him a little bit here. He made a couple big plays. Two. He had two pokeaways. The rest, he got burnt. He was toast.
When I saw him when he came from Pittsburgh, I was like, okay, he's pretty good at coverage. Haven't seen that at all.
What happened?
And Vildor. He is my least favorite Lion of all time.
Why is he employed?
Who's Kendall Vildor?
I feel like he just in the middle of the season he kind of just popped up.
Yeah.
Like he just kind of like he was just like I don't even remember seeing anything about him being signed or elevated. He just kind of just got he was just in the starting lineup and he's just been there.
He randomly appeared during the Broncos game.
Yeah. I don't remember anything except for just seeing Kendall Vildor tweeted out by one of the beat writers, and I'm just like, now we have an Amazon Kindle in our secondary. That's what we can get. We have a reading book tablet on our secondary because he's playing like a tablet. Mm-hmm. He's playing like a tablet.
Amazon tablet.
To be fair,
than him.
He made a very big play last week against the Rams. I think it was a tip from Puka, or like he tipped the ball away from Puka. That was
but didn't he give up that giant 2-2 touchdown?
It was him and Sutton.
Yeah.
I forget who gave up the
Put
touchdown.
Branch at corner. I know he's a free safety. Put him on like
your safeties are all jumbled up. You've got Iffy, you got Melifonwu,
great.
You've got CJ,
great,
and you've got Branch.
Great.
One of them has to go to cornerback.
Yes,
and I think the best one to do it is either Branch or CJ because we drafted Iffy as a cornerback. And he absolutely dudded out at that. And then we're like, hey, let's try him at safety.
And he's a baller.
Now all of a sudden he's one of the best defensive backs, at least in the last 5 games that I've watched, that I've seen. He's one of the best.
He's kind of like Jabril Peppers.
He is.
Good comparison,
wow.
Mr. Haffenden.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Great in the blitz, has some good coverage, but obviously I think we got to keep him at safety for the rest of the year because you can't learn corner in a week again.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah.
So give him some reps at corner in training camp. I think Branch should move to corner. I think Kirby Joseph and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, assuming he resigns, which I think he's going to resign. I think those two should be our safeties with maybe Tracy Walker being the backup or platoon
Break
guy.
glass in case of emergency.
Yep, pretty much.
Hot take. I think Tracy Walker's going to retire at the end of the year.
Ooh. That's a take.
He's going to leave or he's going to retire because he's hurt and he's played for us for like...
He's not even that old. He was drafted in 2018 or 2019, one of those years. So he's
I mean,
that
still
We're
5 or
underusing
6
him.
years, that's still...
Yeah.
That's still a little bit of a while in NFL terms nowadays. You see people retire after 5 or 6 years just because their body can't handle
Like in the NBA or the NFL, or not NFL, NHL, or like in the MLB, 6 years is like beginning. But in the NFL, 6 years, 7 years, when you're injury prone, you look at guys like Andrew Luck, who played in the league for 6 or 7 years and then retired because of personal life and like injuries. Tracy Walker is being underutilized because we found younger people like Melifonwu and Branch and CJ, and Tracy Walker, I haven't seen him play that much, and it's because he's gotten hurt, and I think he's going to leave in the offseason, and I hope he does because I don't really like Tracy Walker that much.
He's a backup. That's really it. Nothing else besides that. And I think it's time we move our secondary to the younger guys, but this offseason, we're going to have to address corner. And I know Brad Holmes will. He's a smart guy. He rebuilt this team in a very good pace. I think we can, frankly, I don't know who's in this cornerback free agent class, but I think we can definitely get someone because look at last offseason. Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, I mean, you tried, but Cam Sutton's, I think he's a solid CB2 at best. He's not a cornerback 1. We got to get our cornerback 1. Fell out the D-line a little bit. Defense still needs some work, but the fact that we're this far with some serious holes in the roster shows a lot about the coaching staff and the resilience of this team, and it's a great thing. But we'll see if the lack of talent on some ends of the team comes to haunt us next Sunday in San Francisco. We'll see, but I think we can do it, but sometimes your holes catch up to you, and they just catch up to you, but we'll see what happens with the Lions on Sunday.
I would trade up in the 2025 draft for Will Johnson. I would do that. He's got one more year at Michigan. Trade our first to snag him in the first. Yeah. Make him our CB1.
I'm looking at some team stats here. Before we move on to the NFL Divisional round, last thing on the Tampa Bay and last thing on the Tampa Bay versus Lions game here. Total yards. Sorry, we just had a camera fall. If you're on the radio listening, we just had a camera fall. We fixed it. We're all good. That's kind of what the confusion was there, if you heard a little thud as well. Total yards, 408 for the Buccaneers, 391 for the Lions. A little concerning there. We don't want it kind of just shows this this secondary against the pass. It's just not good. They also had only 89 rushing yards. 319 passing yards, not good. But our rushing yards at 114 is amazing. I really like that. I want that to stay there. I like the disparity of yards, around 300 for passing and a little over 100 for rushing. It's a good balance, especially with how our offense plays out. 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers is a big stat, and we forced 2. When we force turnovers and we don't turn over the ball, we win. Mm-hmm. And that's the recipe, and that's how we won. Also, time of possession. We had 4 more minutes with the ball. Those 4 minutes were used to score the ball. I think time of possession is a very underrated stat in football. It's showing how much you are utilizing the football and the momentum of the game. I really like that stat right there. And also penalties. Very disciplined game from the boys. 3 penalties for 17 yards. Very, very disciplined game. You weren't shooting yourself in the foot when it mattered the most, which is something we've grown accustomed to as Lions fans. But enough of the Lions. It's Victory Monday. We've talked enough about this team. Now let's go on to the NFL Divisional round, where we saw some 2, 3 amazing games and then a dud. Let's start off with the dud. Ravens-Texans. Started off good, and Ravens beating the Texans 34-10. Lamar Jackson, MVP. MVP.
I was very skeptical in drafting him in fantasy this year, and he has balled out this year. Him and Zay Flowers, too.
You snagged Lamar on draft night from me. I'm
did.
never going to forget
you
that.
You wanted to trade for Lamar, and I was like, Lamar better fall. And I got Lamar, and I was like, I'm very scared. And then he played a full 17 games. Very good 17 games.
Yep.
The duality of Lamar Jackson, 152 passing yards, 100 rushing yards. What a balanced attack from Lamar. And I know a lot of people are like, we don't like the running back at QB. He could still throw the rock. He had 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, he's a running back at quarterback. Sure, but he can still throw the ball. You can't knock the fact that he can throw the ball. He is. Easily.
The Ravens are a scary team.
Very scary.
They're definitely my pick to win the Super Bowl. And I mean, the versatility that Lamar can get. He had 2 touchdowns himself, but then you factor in his main tight end, Isaiah Likely. Even Nelson Aguilar had a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I really thought that the Texans were going to be this year's Cinderella story.
Yeah.
I really did, especially with how C.J. Stroud and his offenses played. All in all, great season from the Texans. Just fell up short against the Ravens. But, I mean, when you're going up against that top tier of a quarterback and that high-caliber offense and defense, there's not really much you can do.
When Nelson Aguilar is scoring tutties, your team's doing pretty well.
Yes.
We'll say that.
I thought the Texans were going to win.
Yeah.
I firmly thought the Texans were going to win just because the fact that they had some momentum and the Ravens had a week off. I thought they were going to squeak out a win. But great game from the Ravens. They played great. They look like the clear Super Bowl favorite right now, and that pass rush is ferocious. I think they can shut anyone down. Chiefs versus Ravens is going to be a great game. Let's see how Mahomes can respond to this defense. But Texans, great season. Nobody expected them to be there. You got to tip your hat to them.
You brought up the Chiefs. Well, let's talk Chiefs-Bills. Because honestly, there's not much to talk about with the Baltimore game. Let's be honest, folks. That was a massacre in the second half. Chiefs-Bills is one of the games of the year. Instant classic, in my opinion. What a game, given the circumstances. The Taylor Swift counter, what was that, at 3 or 4? And one of them wasn't even a Travis Kelce play.
I don't even count.
It was a Pacheco touchdown. They go straight to Taylor Swift.
I think it was just about 3 or 4. It's so... Every time a touchdown is scored, or especially if a play happens to Travis Kelce, where's the camera go? Up in the suite where Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes are celebrating.
They have 3 cameras pointed right at that suite.
Yes, you did.
Easily. They have different angles.
Yep.
Okay, we'll take a Taylor Swift cam. Take 2, ready 2, take 2, ready 3, take 3. Like, they have a whole production truck, it seems like, to get Taylor Swift on the television screen.
Go Ravens. Let's knock out Taylor Swift next week.
Yes, sir.
Hot take, I don't think he would. I've said a lot of hot takes today, but Tyler Bass is not the reason why the Bills lost.
Should not have gotten to a game-tying field.
First of all, the past 4 or 5 Bills Chiefs games have been instant classics. Every time they play each other, we're in for a good game.
And they play in the regular season next year.
They always play in the regular season.
The Bills own the regular season, the Chiefs own the playoffs. Just how it is.
It's not talking to a friend of the show, Derek Steele, big Bills fan. Talking to him after the game, he basically said that Tyler Bass was the reason that we lost. It's not. It's the Damar Hamlin fake punt. That was stupid. That was
I don't know. I
dumb.
did not understand. On 4th and 5 too. It's like
4th and 5 on what? Your own 40. 4th and 5 on your own 35? No.
They caught a break, though, with that fumble. That fumble by, what was that? MCS, was that? Or MVS?
MVS, yeah.
MVS, he go into the pylon, and he gets it knocked out, goes to the back of the end zone, the worst rule in football. When it gets knocked to the back of the end zone, big turnover. Couldn't cap. 0 points in the 4th quarter, Buffalo. What are we doing?
I will say this. Even if Tyler Bass made the kick, it's a tie game with like a minute, maybe a minute 50 left, something like that. That's plenty of time for Mahomes to march down the field, milk the clock, and kick a field goal. So I think even if Bass makes the kick, Mahomes just marches down
and
the field.
plus, Buffalo in the winter is brutal. Fans had to shovel snow out of Highmark Stadium.
The time lapse was insane.
The time lapse was crazy if you saw it on the broadcast, but just Buffalo fans are crazy.
Yeah.
You took all that time to shovel out the snow and lose.
Well, I mean, it's not like they're playing the game. I feel for them. They were crying in the stands. I genuinely feel for the Buffalo Bills fans because it's just heartbreaking loss after heartbreaking loss, and you can't do anything about it. And it's just you're watching this team like, why? Why are we getting Damar Hamlin involved on 4th and 5 in the 4th quarter when we're down? Why are we doing that?
What would you expect from 10-mile-per-hour winds going to the right, going whatever north?
Okay, well,
east?
I mean, the kicker's job is to kick so the wind can knock the ball in.
And he kicked towards the wind.
He kicked it right down the middle.
It's one of the reasons why the Bills lost. It's the DeMar Hamlin fake punt. It's the receivers for
the
Buffalo.
lack of offense in the fourth.
The lack of offense in the fourth, and the Bills not having like any of their defensive linemen.
Yeah, no,
besides
their defense
Von
was...
Miller and Ed Oliver.
The injuries caught up to them. Hate to say it.
And
Injuries
you know
did.
who the Bills should re-sign next year because in the playoffs he was actually a baller? Khalil Shakir.
I agree.
Yes.
Khalil Shakir is a baller,
And he
bro.
came back after that big hit, too.
Yes.
He did.
Last week he was phenomenal. This week he was phenomenal. Nothing to do with anybody.
They found their wide receiver 3.
They found their wide receiver
They did.
3 in Shakir.
did.
Dawson Kincaid played very well yesterday with 8 receptions and 104 yards. Averages about 13 yards per carry. James Cook, though, however, not good. He's another reason why they lost last night.
I want to say this about Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a Lamar Jackson-esque player. I mean, you look at his splits right here. I mean, he led the game in rushing for the Bills. He had 72 yards, 2 touchdowns, and passing he had 86 yards and a touchdown. He basically had a Lamar Jackson stat line. I mean, he did all he could do. You cannot fault this game on Josh Allen. As much as people during the regular season wanted to fault Josh Allen for the Bills' woes to start the season, you cannot fault him at this point. He puts his body on the line. He's not afraid to take a hit. And you know what that leads to? That leads to tutties. And I respect that from Josh Allen. He put his heart on the line. He put his body on the line to win this game for Buffalo and the city. And you know what? It was the other factors that lost it. You cannot blame Josh Allen for this loss. As much as Bills fans might like to use him as a scapegoat, as much as NFL media and fans might like to, make fun of Josh Allen for the way he played, especially at the beginning of the season, it wasn't great. He, especially in the end of this season when they went on that winning streak going into the playoffs, and then they're in the winning streak in the playoffs, he played his heart out. And you got to respect it from Josh Allen. You can't help that Diggs only had, 21 yards? 21 yards, 27 yards,
Diggs.
Unacceptable from Diggs.
7 yards.
7.
Oh, he only had 7 yards. I saw he had 21.
That's rushing.
I remember
Oh,
Josh
sorry.
Allen
Yeah.
He had
threw an absolute
73
dime.
yards receiving.
Allen threw an absolute dime to Diggs towards
And he
the end
dropped
of the game,
it.
and he dropped it. It's brutal.
He can't get past that picture in the AFC Championship when they lost, and he was looking at the confetti.
He's been standing there for 4 years now.
He has been. So it's been. You could have gotten a college degree in the time it's taken for him to attempt to for him
a
to
crazy
attempt,
thought.
yeah,
It's a crazy
for him
thought,
to attempt to get past that point, and he still hasn't. So he's going for another degree on top of that as well. So Chiefs beat the Bills 27-24. They'll be heading over to M&T Bank Stadium to take on the Baltimore Ravens. Should be a good one. 3:00 on Sunday. Then we had another game on Saturday between the Packers and 49ers. And it looked like the Packers had this one for a little bit, and then the 49ers prevailed at the end. Boys, what are we thinking about this one, especially with Green Bay?
Jordan Love's a baller. 466 passing yards against that Niners defense.
Yeah.
To be fair, no secondary. However, great D-line. Great D-line. Chase Young, Nick Bosa. More of those guys. I can't think. I'm tired. But holy cow. Jordan Love, they found their quarterback of the future. Aaron Jones, 39 carries, 226 yards. He also balled out. Everybody balled their out. Romeo Doubs found his way open again, which is very surprising. He did this
He's always open on a crossing route.
On a crossing route and on a slant, he's wide open every time.
I think one player that need to get more into it is Christian Watson.
Yeah.
He only had one catch, 11 yards. You need to utilize. I mean, he's supposed to be wide receiver 1, right? You're supposed to utilize him a lot more than I think Dobbs has taken over for wide receiver 1. I think he's the better talent than Watson. I think the only good play, and this could be a casual take because I don't watch a lot of Packers football for my own sanity. The only good play I've seen from him was that 60-yard bomb to start off against the Lions. I think that's the only explosive play. He could have had a couple more. He probably did have a couple more. But the only one I can recall being at least significant to the point of which it absolutely killed a team was that one play against the Lions. I think he either gets traded or he understands that his role is going down to a wide receiver 2.
Wait, I lied. Jordan Love didn't have 400.
Yeah, I was about to say he had
194
and 2 interceptions.
I looked at I'm sorry, folks, but I looked at the combined stats.
That'll do it for
not
you.
the single game stats. But Jordan Love, he still had 194 yards, which is pretty good.
He played.
He played really well. 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, 17 fantasy points. Romeo Doubs again, being Romeo Doubs, but everybody did their part for Green Bay. They just couldn't close it out.
I will say this about the Green Bay-San Fran game, and I think this might carry over next week for the Lions. Green Bay was giving San Fran a scare at their place.
Exactly.
Lions can compete with pretty much anybody, especially with their 2 recent wins that they had against the Rams and the Bucs. They can compete with anybody. So I think going into next week, Lions can look at the game footage, and I mean, just going with that same mindset. They can play anybody, but this is a game next week where everybody, again, has to step up, and you got to earn your way to the Super Bowl.
That's crazy to think the Lions are one game away, one win. Good golly. I cannot talk. They're 1 win away from the Super Bowl.
Crazy thought.
You think we'd ever say that in our lifetime?
I never thought so,
Told me
especially
this 2
after
years ago, I'd call you crazy.
the 3-13-1 and then the 1-6 start. You were to tell me week 7 of last season we would be in the NFC Championship game with a shot, not going to say realistic, but a shot at making the Super Bowl in Sin City. Oh, baby. I would not have believed you.
If you told me the day that we traded T.J. Hawkinson, that we would possibly go to the Super Bowl, I would have called you insane.
That was such a good trade, too.
My gosh.
I
was initially upset about that because I love Hawkinson.
There was a couple reasons why we're at this position, and it's firing Matt Patricia, and it's we traded T.J. Hawkinson. I think that trade, when that happened, everything went great.
And I think the reason why we're this good is because of Peyton Manning and Jeff Daniels going to Ford Field and breaking the curse of
100
vodka.
bottles of whiskey and salt.
Yep.
Yeah. But I will say this about the 49ers. I think the reason they struggled against the Packers a little bit is because the Packers played a big game against the Cowboys, and the Packers had all the momentum. And at the end of the day, the momentum wasn't enough to beat the talent of the 49ers. This 49ers team is the most talented team in the NFL on paper. Keyword, on paper.
Yeah.
We'll see if maybe Brock Purdy proves that all the talent on paper is enough, but we'll see. But
if Debo doesn't play, that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. But yeah, the Packers, they played great. They had an amazing season. They're going to be in competition with us for the division next year. So we have some competition in the NFC North going forward.
The NFC North is going to be stacked next year. We tell you this much. The Bears, they got, 2 top 10 picks?
They're going to be a lot better next year.
They have the number 1
Marvin
overall
Harrison.
pick.
They're probably going to trade Justin Fields.
They're already pretty
Kirk,
good at the end of the season. It's like, and then the Packers, I mean, they had our number in that Thanksgiving game. They ended the season hot, and they went to the divisional. Beginning of the season, you were to tell me the Packers would make the divisional round and give the 49ers a run for their money, again, I would not have believed you. And the Vikings, I mean, that receiving core. If we want to compete, Detroit Lions, Brad Holmes, go get a veteran cornerback that you know can cover well in man coverage in free agency, not through the draft. We need him to make an impact now. It is very rare you see a rookie make an immediate impact like 4 of our rookies did this year. That is an anomaly. It's not going to happen every year. You need to go make an instant impact move on that secondary.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. I've said this before on this show, but I'll say it again. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. The Lions secondary is going to make or break this team next week. We've said it all along.
Yeah.
The Lions secondary, let's be real, is not good. Cam Sutton against Mike Evans was such a mismatch.
Especially on that 2-minute drill.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That 2-minute drill, Cam Sutton could not do anything.
That was the ultimate Cam Sutton disaster class.
Yeah.
And here's another thing. At the drive where we're at the 1-yard line, and we get a fresh set of downs. I understand trying to mix up the plays a little bit. 3 passes. But you get it to 4th and goal. Just run the ball. Your run game has worked for you all afternoon with Gibby. Just punch it in with Gibby. He's fast enough and strong enough that'll bring it in.
What happened?
So it was just a series. It was just a series of plays where I think the Lions tried to switch it up with just different passing plays at the 1-yard line, trying to hit Laporta or Josh Reynolds. At that point, if your running game is strong, run it in. And now I think both of these teams, I think it's safe to say, are going to try and stop the run.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Yep.
It's all going to be keen on pass defense next week.
Yes.
Both teams are going to utilize their pass defense a lot.
Yep.
Now, whose pass defense, who I think is better? 49ers. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But if the Lions want a realistic shot at winning, everybody needs to step up in that secondary.
They need to play against the Broncos.
Yes.
And pressure.
We need that secondary.
And here's the thing about the pressure. Great point, Isaac. Those empty edge rushes, Buccaneers let 4 of those, I think, go by.
Yep. I mean, I think Rachaad White literally was on his knees and was basically like, go on through. You can go on through. You can go attack my quarterback.
Now, I definitely think the 49ers are smart enough to not let that happen to them.
I agree. I will say the Buccaneers had some interesting blocking techniques, like letting Aiden Hutchinson get a free rush at Baker Mayfield on 3rd and 3 to knock him out of field goal range.
Seriously?
That's a little...
Knock him back. This is a nice 10 yards.
Yeah, that was an interesting blocking scheme, but I ain't complaining.
You know what? I'm just going to have this dude right here, 6'7", 270, just come at Baker Mayfield like a freight train and knock him out of field goal range.
Yep.
I'll say it before and I'll say it again. I'm looking at all of you with your Lions jerseys. You all have Hutch's jersey for a reason.
Yep.
I may have to follow suit.
Michigan man.
I
Might
love
have to.
Aiden Hutchinson. He was a beast at Michigan. He's a beast on the Lions. And how about Aiden Hutchinson at the end, just looking around Ford Field and taking it
Take
all
it down.
in?
Take it down.
Take it down. Take
All right.
it down.
I have a fun fact. Before we move on to some Central Michigan basketball, I have a fun fact for all the viewers and all of you guys here in studio.
Oh, okay.
It's been 66 years since the Lions won a playoff game on the road. This win came against a certain team to advance to the 1957 NFL championship game, the last time we won a championship. That team, the San Francisco 49ers.
Wow.
I didn't even know they were
Wow.
around back then, not going to lie.
And also, fun fact.
Wow.
Did you know that Jared Goff and Dan Campbell's first ever game together in the regular season was against the 49ers? And we came back in garbage time.
Do you know that Matthew Stafford and Clayton Kershaw went to high school together?
I didn't
Oh
know
my
that. That's
gosh.
crazy.
Hey, another fun fact. The Detroit Lions went 0-16 and have made more conference championships than the Dallas
America's
Cowboys
team.
this century.
The Lions have more conference championship appearances and playoff wins than the Dallas Cowboys in this century.
Cowboys have more playoff wins, but conference championships are more important, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, the Cowboys have more playoff wins, but the Lions are America's team,
We are.
not
we've
the
taken that
Cowboys.
over.
Jerry Jones,
When were they ever America's team, though? Everybody's always
They
hated the
panned it in the
Cowboys.
90s. They panned it in the 90s.
Oh,
And it
boy.
just kinda
that's
stuck.
a good take. They panned it in the 90s, but this is year in and year out. The Cowboys find a way to choke the playoffs.
Yep.
It's just fun. It's
And
just
they got
funny.
their doors blown out by Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers.
Yep.
It's just...
It's the classic. The Packers beating the Cowboys and then losing to the 49ers.
It's
like
just
Aaron Rodgers
so
never left.
funny.
It is like Aaron Rodgers never left. All right, so enough of football. We've had enough of the pigskin for a little bit. We're going to talk some Central Michigan basketball because they have been impressive in MAC play, haven't they?
Oh
Yes,
my
they
gosh.
have. 2 big statement wins. The most recent coming from Toledo, a game that all of us were actually
Oh, yeah.
present at.
Great
And
time.
what an environment
Great
in
time.
McGurk Arena. Let me
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you.
That place can get loud.
If you can get that place packed, now it doesn't seat quite a lot, but once you get that place packed, it's an electric
The barn on Broomfield. That's what they've dubbed it. The barn on Broomfield.
Oh, I love that. The
barn
barn,
on
on
Broomfield.
Broomfield. Yes.
And then the other statement win against Kent State.
Yes.
And an emphatic one, 77-62. A big win right there for Central Michigan. Central Michigan, I've said this with this team many of times, especially this year. You start off against number 15 currently, Oklahoma, and you get your doors blown off. All right, makes sense, though. You're on the road against a Power 5 basketball staple in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. All right, fast forward, you lose a tough one to Louisiana Monroe, probably a game you should have won, but obviously you're coming off the first game of the season, just absolutely getting whiffed by, and you're gonna have a couple of those losses during a season. That's just basketball for you. And then you got to go to Florida State, and it's like, okay, come on, what is the schedule? What is this schedule? Now we got to go into Florida State, another Power 5 team who in recent years has been pretty decent at basketball, I'd say. They get their doors blown off, 94-67. And then you go into South Florida, right? You're staying in the comfy confines of the Sunshine State. Got it right? And you win a close one, 68-63. And then you beat Siena, and then Stetson stuns you. And it's like, okay, that one stings a little bit. And then you got to go into Ohio State. And it's like, okay, people, how many Power 5 teams do we have to play until we make a statement, right? And we were close in that game. I'll give us this. We were close in that game until about the second half, and then the wheels started to fall off, and then 5 miles down the road, we're burning steel with sparks flying up, and now we're losing 88-61. And then we beat Valparaiso at home, and then we got to go into 18 Creighton. And it's like, oh my goodness, another basketball staple. And it's like a tough schedule makes a very good team. The start of the schedule, those are 4 games that if you don't schedule these big-time teams, you might get 4 wins, right? If you schedule against an easy opponent. But then you look at Minnesota, right? Minnesota, they start off their season with the easiest schedule in college basketball. They start, 10-2? And then they lost to Michigan State. So, obviously, you want to schedule tough games to build your team. And now recently, you're seeing Davenport win, Detroit Mercy win, which that's obviously not hard. Loyola was a little bit of a rough one, but then we bounced back against Ball State, and then we beat Eastern, and then we beat Kent State, and we lost against Ohio, okay, and then we beat Toledo. All right, we got Miami of Ohio coming up next, right? And this team, they've taken those losses at the beginning of the year against those tough teams, and they've made it their identity. You know what? We play these tough teams. We know how to play these teams now. We know how these tough teams are going to play. Yes, we did not have the talent to equate. It's just how it's going to work. When you're a MAC team that had, 4 wins last year, you're not going to have the talent of a Creighton, of an Ohio State, of a Florida State, of an Oklahoma. It's just not going to happen. An upset might brew out of one of them. Maybe. If there's injuries on the other team, too. But you use these losses as building blocks, and now you're starting to see it. A good win against Toledo, a gritty win against Toledo, a blowout win against Kent State at home, right? And they're starting to, and also, that's the first game you had fans and students in McGurk. And now you're starting to use the fan momentum. Everything's pointing positive for the Central Michigan team. You got a big contest against Miami of Ohio tomorrow. We'll be present.
Absolutely.
And then you've got Western on Saturday. Ooh. A big one. Even in the standings, Western and Central are. Even in talent, in my opinion, Western and Central are. That's another big statement game. Can you beat your rival on the road? You have them at McGurk for the toilet paper toss later in the season. Can you take care of them on the road? That's another big one. And Akron on February 6th. That's a big one. Akron sits atop the MAC. They sit atop the MAC at, let me check to make sure I'm correct. That is not the, oh my goodness. I just went to standings for Central Michigan. It took me to the America East Conference.
Akron is at the top of the MAC.
They are. Let me get to. They are at the top of the MAC. Here we go.
They are 14-4.
They are 14-4, 6-0 in the conference, and we also have Bowling Green too, who's 14-4, 5-1 in the conference. So we have a lot of tough games coming up. But my question is for this team, and Barbie's a great coach, and he has some good guys on that floor, right? Can you use those lessons learned at the beginning of the year to knock off these big teams in conference? If you can do that, and you could go into this tournament rolling off a couple big wins, and you could somewhat win the MAC, that would be huge coming off a 4-win season, huh?
That would be huge.
Yeah. I think the thing that I love about this men's team, this is a big point in the season where they're really turning the corner. Students are showing up and packing McGurk, and they're using that energy to fuel their performances. And so far, I mean, it's paid off.
Yeah.
You had a great crowd at Kent State. There was a great crowd at Toledo. And Toledo, they were riding a 20-game league winning streak in the Mid-American Conference. snap by Central Michigan.
It is.
You gotta love it.
And we almost gave it away. We did. Making a full court pass with 0.7 seconds left to give him the ball with 0.7 and leave him wide open from 3 with 0.7 left on the clock. Need to clean that up.
Absolutely.
We got lucky. We'll take it. A win is a win.
Especially against
Toledo. But those things being cleaned up, those lessons being taught, those will bode well for Central Michigan. Sadly, though, that's all we have for today's show. Thank you for tuning in to Card Guys Season 2, Episode 2 on 91.5 The Mountain, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Tune in Wednesday when we take a deeper look into some more Detroit sports. Pistons, Red Wings, they're red hot in January, and Tigers, we got pitchers and catchers reporting soon. Tune in for that on Wednesday. For my good buddies Ryan Donnelly, Michael Rosenkranz, and Izaak Haffenden, I'm Anthony Schulte saying so long, everybody.
Love you, Mom and Dad. Hopefully see you for the Super Bowl if we win. I'll be home.